we're walking. And to me, that's like wasting that 4 miles, or wasting the horse's legs, all those steps. They don't need it. They're already legged up. They're already seasoned. So I would rather ride 15 effective miles than 20 miles with
and what that in our case
playing
is
around.
usually faster pace than we do at the race.
Always. I always train faster than I race.
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
So that when you come back down, well, within the same gait. Like, I'm not going to train at a canter and then go to a ride and do a trot all day long, because you're changing gait. So I will train within the gait that I know I want to use, and for Tevis that's significantly the trot. There's not a lot of flat there. You can canter some of it, but most of it is the trot. So I'm going to really work my trots, but I'm going to push them faster in the trot. So when I go to that ride, back down a mile or two an hour, it's easy. And they don't, it's just a lot easier for them.
Yeah, people always ask when they move up in distance or speed, how do they know they're not going to hurt their horse? We get that question a lot. And if you train harder than you're going to do at the race, that's a pretty good safety net right there.
Do you think you need to do a multi-day 50s before you move up to 100?
No.
However, that's been one way that we've seen. We're not big on multi-days, but it's one way we've seen horses get rid of race brain. So,
Yeah.
so
I kind of like a 2-day 100.
Yeah.
As a prep for 100, because it gives them a chance to eat and recoup. So the last few years, when I get a chance to do a 2-day 100, there's not very many of that. You could do the same thing. Do 2 days.
Okay. Well, somebody discussed how do you
start riding in the dark? What do you guys do to practice?
Actually, riding in the dark is my favorite part of the whole ride. When I finish under in the daylight, I feel robbed a little bit. No, honestly, I don't get afraid riding in the dark, it's taken me like taking that leap of faith and trusting my horse. And when it happened to me was when I forgot my headlamp and I was in a desert 100 and it got dark on me, and I just let my horse go. And it was sagebrush, and he followed the trail. There are no trees to block him, and I was like, okay, this horse can see. And it's sort of like it was the light bulb moment. I'm like, that's the headlamp is all about me, and it has nothing to do with the horse.
But you can practice, grab a group of friends, and
I do.
Yeah, go out.
I get very seasick.
Oh, you get vertigo.
Yeah.
Vertigo.
Oh.
Yeah. So how do you guys deal with it?
Never got it.
Me either.
Good genes, I guess.
Where's that thing that people wear for seasickness?
Well, I've got meclizine, so
Yeah,
I don't keep it all out tomorrow.
Do you have any ginger?
Yeah, that I don't know. If we don't start in the front of the pack and stay in the front of the pack, yeah, we'll stay there. But there's a lot of hundreds where we've started last or late and won them. There's way more strategy and smarts to ride the 100 than a 50. We found anyway. So it is the magic of the 100. And
I want to always be able to ride the next loop faster than the loop I just rode. So I always want to save enough horse that I know I could, if I effectively wanted to, increase speed and not be forced to decrease speed ever throughout a ride.
So when you said you want to do another slow 50 on Egypt and then maybe a slow 75, like what are your times? Or what's your pace? I mean, I know it's hard because it all depends on the terrain.
yeah, and it is hard because, like Robin was saying, we're pretty efficient. She's a freak recover. She'll always come in down, and I'm really efficient at vet checks, so we're in and out pretty quick. And I mean, we've ridden, I mean, and it depends on the terrain too. We'll not push her through sand yet.
Well, we know this 50 pretty well, and if it takes us much over, I doubt if it takes much over 7 hours.
Yeah.
We're not going to go poke around.
Yeah, we're not going to poke around.
We're not taking a sack lunch out there.
We'll move consistent where it's good footing, and we'll be really careful where it's bad footing. With her at this point, because of her upbringing, her age and stuff, I'm pretty confident in her metabolics, but legs are still the be real careful with, I think. So.
Well, I was supposed to talk about training. And,
Rusty just said that he basically does negative splits, and Robin sounded like you were pretty consistent.
We're consistent, but we always have that option. We always want to know, just like him, that we have it in the tank if we have to race at the end, and it's there. We also have a real strong thing about don't go any faster than we have to. So I'm not going to do a negative split if the next horse behind me is 2 hours. and why risk hurting your horse for that? You know, the only time we'll really race and do anything kind of that way is if we're at a big FEI, a Tevis. You know, I mean, save that stuff for those rides. If you're at a backyard race, I don't know. I mean, I'm really into longevity and racing hard, and I've been really successful at it. And I think it's because I'll let people pass me at the end of a backyard race if it's bad footing, downhill rocks, steep sand. It's not worth it for me. So, but on the negative splits, yeah, we always want that gas left in the tank if we need it, but we don't always use it.
Which is my theory as well. But I want to know that it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to ride my horse at red line from the start to the end.
Right.
I think consistency-wise, what I was really talking about is throughout the ride itself, maybe each loop a bit faster, which we really didn't. We cruised the whole time. But the biggest thing is we're not going to walk at 2 miles an hour and then go down the trail at 16.
Right.
Yeah, we were pretty consistent as much as we possibly could.
So, Stu, can I ask Dennis a question on that sand thing? Because you said you're kind of freaked out about the sand, you know, you don't want to push her too fast.
Yeah.
But in Dennis's book, he talks about cantering in the sand is actually less stressful. Am I correct on that?
Yeah,
And can you explain
once you
that?
have a seasoned horse,
Seasoned,
I think
yeah.
they can roll through the sand, you know, within limits better
Okay.
at a canter. And you go over the middle east, they're not tough on the sand. So
He's
it
talking
is more
trotting
efficient,
versus
but
cantering.
Right.
These
Yeah.
guys are
Right.
a long ways from that.
Right,
Yeah.
but we have a lot of sand out here.
Yeah.
And so, in general, if you had a seasoned horse, you would tend to do a slow canter
Yeah,
through the
you'd
sand
have to
more
have
than a
a
trot.
Easy, short canter. And go through a lot more effortless, it seems like, most
Okay.
horses.
For sure.
The other thing too is you have to really decide. I mean, horses are better. Some are better than at something than others. Some are better canters. Some are better trotters. You got to use what they're good at. Some are better uphill horses. Some are better downhill horses, and you have to figure out where their efficiency is and use it to your advantage.
I think some people, early riders, might be surprised to know how slow the average speed is. When you won Tevis, what was the average miles per hour, like 7.4 or something like that?
Probably.
Yeah,
But
win Tevis.
if we go back to the negative split, I rode the last
Yeah, the
5
fastest.
miles in 20 minutes.
Yeah, so that really probably brought you up a bit. So
But I knew I had that much horse left. So, like, Jenny and Jennifer left in front of me, and I was able to catch them past them.
He believed we were
I
chasing
believed,
him.
I thought they were chasing me all the way in, which they weren't. You can't see on that trail. But I wanted to know that I had that much horse left, that if I wanted to make that call and go ahead and make that decision at that point in the ride, that I wasn't risking my horse to do it.
people would be surprised to know you can win a big ride at 7 miles an hour.
Well, it also depends on the
Not 9,
horse.
10,
Yeah, it
12.
does depend on the horse.
Right. Like, I don't know what the national championship was won in, but the average speed is significantly faster depending on the terrain that you're covering.
And the Tevis times are whack a little bit because you don't have as many holes, so you're taking your own trail time.
Right. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, only 2 of your best checks are off the clock.
Right.
The other 5 are still on the clock. So it does mess with your overall average time.
Yeah. The other thing too, I don't think any of us talked about it, is the importance of teaching your horse to graze on the trail and graze and keep moving on the trail on the longer distances. That's huge if you can get them to do that. If you're
Unless
at a
you
ride.
live in Arizona.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, up in the northwest where there's grass, it's iron Colorado.
Right.
You know, they get to where they can just grab and go and not really even break stride. You know, go. Yeah, that's a great quality.
We teach you the big meat eaters down here. They just grab a jackrabbit.
Yeah.
Better luck than finding grass. So.
So how did you train for the Tevis?
For that ride specifically, I try to make a monster uphill horse, and I will break the rules, and I do think you absolutely necessarily have to train downhill at speed. You cannot just walk your horse downhill. And they may get through the ride, but this is why you see so many lame horses or horses that don't come back from Tevis or have a difficult time recovering from Tevis or don't look good at Hagen Cup showing. It's because they haven't put in the time at the downhill trot and the downhill speed. That ride is significantly downhill, and it's just like with humans. When the horses are trotting downhill, they're actually braking with every step. So it creates intense muscle soreness, especially once the ride is over. And that's why you'll also see a lot of hind end lamenesses and a lot of pulls at lower quarry, as the hind end just can't take the downhill movement anymore. And even the back people have to trot the downhill or they won't finish on time. I don't think you should overtrain the trot, but it has to be done within no longer than 10 days apart, or you're starting over. And we're kind of guessing with that because there's been no studies done on it, but we're applying what we've learned from human athletes, human ultra runners. And you have to basically work downhill at movement once a week minimum to build that ability to handle it.
And then I imagine you did a lot of 50-mile rides to work for it.
Actually, I think the faster I've increased my horses, the less mileage I do with that specific horse. So like my Tevis training year will be, I'll do a ride in March, I'll do a ride in May, and I'll do a ride in June, and then they won't go to another event.
And those are
50s. I will not do anything higher than a 50. And afterwards, I'll bring them back and do a 75 or something like that. But to get to that ride, I think many people overtrain their horses, or they train, and what I see, especially with people trying to move up in speed, is they train junk miles. They're going out and doing 20 miles, but that's not to move the horse forward. They're doing the same thing that they've been doing over and over and over again. So you're not really increasing horse, you're just bringing the horse down. Or going out when a horse is already legged up and you're trying to move them up into top 10 or something like that. Just going out and walking for 5 miles is a waste of time, and it's a waste of the horse's legs, in my opinion. Like, you want to get them warm, achieve what you want to achieve, and be done. So less mileage, higher speed, more effective mileage. So you're not just out there pounding their legs for an insignificant reason. And this is, of course, assuming they've already had all the other long, slow distance.
Yeah, we did a weird experiment in the last 2 years on horses for hundreds. We took both the years, real season 100-mile horses, older horses done a ton of hundreds, and for the first ride of the season, after having all winter off, we put them in 100.